the Sacramento. So meeting has been called to order at 6 p.m. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Yes, Director Sailors.
Present.
Director Gould.
Here.
Director Wood.
Here.
President Rice is absent. Director Costa.
Here.
Director Weber.
Here.
Director Stark.
Here.
Director Clark. Director Jones.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Director Jones, can you lead us through the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Director Jones. All right, Metro Cable announcement. This meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District is recorded. The recording will be cablecast on Metro Cable Channel 14, the Local Government Affairs channel, on Comcast and DirecTV Uverse cable systems. All relevant information for the recordings are in the agenda. We'll move to public comment. So public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within the district's jurisdiction, including items on or not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
I have no speaker cards. Anybody on Zoom wishing to make a public comment, please use the raise your hand feature. We will call on you. No public comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That brings us to the consent items. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda or consent items?
Here, I'll move the consent calendar.
All right, we have a first.
Second.
Director Weber, second. Roll call.
Director Sailors.
Aye.
Director Gould.
Aye.
Director Wood.
Aye.
Director Stark.
Aye.
Director Clark. Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Weber.
Aye.
President Costa.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. The consent calendar is adopted.
All right, thank you. So that brings us to presentation items. The first item is legal services or multiple award schedule. We have Chief Development Officer Jeff Fry.
I'm here to present an update on the legal services multiple award schedule, and if Ethan can bring up the presentation. My favorite part of doing these is I get to tell you this is not my work. We found out from in an executive staff meeting that this was of particular importance to the board, and you wanted us to start on this project right away. So again, trying to manage workload and all those things, we offered this as a professional development opportunity to in-house staff. And Jill Guzman and Carmen Delgado took us up on that offer.
Fantastic.
And have done absolutely amazing work. And I think you can tell by the level of the presentation, this is clearly not my work. So with that, really excited to present this on their behalf. So we are taking a break. Traditionally for an RFP process or solicitation process, we would typically build the document, do the research, do the reviews, and bring the board a recommendation with the process itself. There are rare occasions where it is best practice, whether it's the size of the contract or if it's of particular importance to the governing body, to bring the RFP ahead of time to have a discussion to make sure we're on the right track. We feel the closeness of the legal services of the district and to the board, we felt like this was the right occasion to use that strategy. So we're here to kind of talk you through the work we've done and then ask for your direction ahead of sending it out for response. Okay, so the background, we last conducted an RFP for legal services, I think back in 2012-ish. So those contracts are set to expire this year. And so it's time to renew the process. We have a couple of goals. First is to address that expired multiple award schedule that I just mentioned. Second is to update the scope. Laws change. Our needs has changed. We are a growing organization and we needed to make sure that we were capturing those needs appropriately. And we need to ensure continuity with these contracts expiring. We can't be without legal services. Ideally, we would have a little bit of a crossover to make sure information is transferred appropriately. And if there is new cancel, it's indoctrinated into our process appropriately. And then finally, we're always want to make sure we are transparent in this process. I think that's a goal of doing these presentations and why we're here today. So a little bit about the work we have done. We started in earnest February 1st. And again, that included some internal training and then the development of the documentation. So we are moving pretty quickly here. First step, we did an internal assessment. Like I said, we weren't entirely sure of what legal expertise we use in house, how often, what is the need. So the first thing we did was conducted an internal assessment. And the goal of that was to understand how legal services are currently used across the district, identify areas where specialized expertise is needed, and also may be required in the future to support the district. So again, we did the survey. We sent the survey to executive staff, our managers, and other specialized professional staff that use legal services quite a bit. I might be a little bit ahead of myself, but we also sent it to the board president to at least collect some feedback from the board. So after we gather that information, that allowed us to construct the RFP itself and to make sure that the areas of law that we're interested in, along with the capacity we need, is adequately reflected in the document. So we intend to use a competitive approach as we always do. These criteria are pretty common for us. We tend to use these across any time we're asking for professional services. What does change from time to time is the weight of the factor and the importance of those criteria. I will tell you this is still a working document and the weights probably will not be these. It'll be close, but we are trying to now weigh some of the nuances of the needs and make sure that the criteria absolutely captures our needs appropriately. So when we bring it back, we have confidence that we're presenting the right group to you all. So again, as I mentioned, the reason why we're taking this a little bit out of order is to collect board input, make sure we're on the right path. So I will pause here and turn it over to you, President Costa, for any questions or direction that you may have.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Any questions from the board? No questions? Not yet. Okay. Back to you, Jeff.
Easy enough.
There we go.
So from here, we're just back on our normal process. We intend to finalize the document. I believe it's really close to a final draft now. We would like to get this out next week to make sure we stay on our timeline. That would take us to a proposal evaluation. I believe I have a date. Oh, I'm gonna look at Carmen. Is it Mayish? Mayish, I'm gonna go with Mayish.
Sounds good.
And oh yeah, May or early June, and then we will be back to the board with the entire evaluation for your consideration. And that is the end of my presentation.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jeff.
Mhm.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chair,
Director.
I just wonder what kind of board level interaction will we have when it comes time for the evaluations and any interviews that may occur? Will there be a member of the exec team? Or how are we going to have that particular perspective represented during the evaluation process?
That's a great question.
So we do run into challenges there. At all costs, we protect the board since you are ultimately the governing body and have to make the recommendation for the award. It creates a conflict of interest if you're in the process. If you want to know what that means, there may be an opportunity to include someone in the process, but they would have to, I'm looking at Council Lawver here, they may have to recuse themselves from the vote. So my recommendation is to allow us to do our jobs and provide input tonight, and then we will bring it back to you when we're satisfied it's going to meet your needs.
Okay. Director Gould, is that,
Okay, I have a different opinion.
please?
I think that recusing isn't going to be the end of the world unless we do a 4-4 split, which we haven't done in 30 years or 25 years. So not worried about that part of it. I'm just wondering, we sit with a very different perspective from legal counsel and the interaction they have with board members. And I would feel more comfortable that a member of this body is represented through the process. And then if, to avoid a conflict when it comes to the decision, I'm fine to have that person just recognize they won't be voting for that part of it. But I think having a member of the board there is in the past been a good thing, and certainly don't interpret that as we have no
Sure.
faith or we don't think you're doing your job. We pay you. That's what you're
Mhm.
supposed to do. But I think we sit in a lot of closed sessions and we've had a lot of very, very powerful and positive experiences with John. And I would just like to see that somehow represented. And I don't know that anybody else in this building could do that except someone sitting at this level.
I'm happy to do that
Thank you.
homework, President Costa, if you like.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I'm happy to do that homework and look into that if you'd like.
I think that'd be great. Thank you, Jeff.
I mean, obviously, if it's preventative, we can't do it.
Right.
Then then obviously.
Then
we're
the
going
answer is
to,
good.
But I mean,
Mhm.
to me, we haven't done this in quite a
Time.
long time.
Mhm.
And I don't know what the harm would be in having one of
Yeah.
us present during that process.
I think it's great feedback. And so Jeff, you'll take the lead on just checking against that. If
Absolutely.
we can, then we can come back as a board and,
Sure.
and nominate someone for that. Great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you, Jeff.
Sure.
Great work.
Thank you.
And thank you for keeping the board apprised of everything that's going on. So I
Of course.
appreciate it. Thank you. All right. So our next next presentation item is Workers' Compensation Stewardship Report. And we have Inacare. We have a few people here. All right. And we'll turn over to Angela Lewis. Good evening.
Good evening, Board of Directors. Good evening, Chief Mitchell. We are very excited and thankful for you having us here today. As we all know, workers' compensation has been a topic that has garnered a lot of discussion over the last few years. A lot of members in this room and outside of this room have put in a lot of time, blood, sweat, probably a lot of tears, and making sure we deliver the best program possible for our members. So we're very excited to be here. I'm going to turn it over to Danielle so she can remind you who she is, and then we're going to take a brief moment to introduce you to the rest of the Intercare team before we get into the numbers.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us here today. Appreciate it. My name is Danielle Burry-Beaton, and I oversee the client services, now called Client Success team at Intercare. So it's nice to see some friendly faces. Appreciate all our time spent together and going over and trying to make this the best program possible. I want to introduce my team today. So with me is Michelle Metter. She is your direct client success manager over the program, and she's part of my team. And then Shauna Culp is actually new to the program. So she has been with Intercare for many, many years as a claims manager, but she hasn't been on this program before. And Heather now works directly with Shauna, so she's excited to be here. And then that brings me to Heather. You guys have met Heather a couple times. We've also done the stewardship and worked with HR and many different things. So Heather's really on the front line of really working out with your adjusters and your injured employees and injured members. So happy to have the team here today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for being here.
Okay. Do you want to be helpful? Okay, I can't click and talk at the same time. Okay. So just to kind of remind you, for those that may or may not have heard this session a year ago, I'm sure we all, I don't know about you, but I don't remember a year ago too well. So just to kind of go over this, we're looking at your data and the claims that we've been reported to us. We're looking at year over year and specifically the last 5 years. So we do this for Metro Fire for the calendar year. So we're looking at calendar year over year. So you'll see a lot of different things in this report that we'll go over, but that's really the main intent of the report, looking at areas of possible improvement and areas that we're thriving and you guys should, celebrate of what you're trying to do for all of your members. Next is our new claim summary. So this is showing you, and we'll focus mostly on calendar year 25. This is showing you the new claims that have been reported this past year. And as you can see, the total incidents reported, that includes your information only and first aid. Those are not actual reportable claims, but we do get them reported to us. We make a record of them. And that way, if there needs to be treatment at some point, we can do that and we all have the information. We're focused on that line area that is in blue. The 265, that is the total number of medical only, meaning they didn't lose time. There was no type of benefits needed other than medical, and indemnity. Indemnity cases are the ones we spend all our time talking about. Those are the lost time cases or have the more difficult and even catastrophic type injuries. So you can see there's an increase from last year. Last year there's 185, this year's 265. However, there's also an improvement in the number of medical only to indemnity cases. 34% were medical only. So that's really good. Back in the day, way back, we used to see 60% medical only and 40% indemnity. That kind of switched over the past several years, but you guys are headed into the right direction in the past couple of years. One thing I do want to point out is when you're looking at this data, you do have that outlier year. If you guys can remember what that's about, that was the COVID impact. So I think we'll all be happy when we don't have to talk about COVID anymore, but that has a definite impact. So when you're trying to compare year over year, you have to kind of keep that year in mind.
This is a summary of our lag time. And what lag time means is from the date either the employee notifies us or we notify Intercare, how many days have elapsed. As you'll see in this slide, we've done a tremendous job over the last year, thanks in large part due to your kind approval of my position. Now there's 2 of us to tackle the increasing workload of all the members who are injured at the district. We have gone down 5 days in the last year on how long it takes for a claim to hit our desk and then to get to Intercare. That's a huge improvement. When you are talking about workers' compensation claims, late reported claims are proven statistically to cost up to 50% more than claims that are reported timely. So it is a huge benefit to the member and the district as a whole for us to make sure we're getting those claims into the hands of our adjusters timely. We do have a goal we'll talk about with that later, but that does continue to be an area of improvement for us. With the members themselves, you'll also note that we've had a tremendous improvement in how long it's taking members to tell us about an injury. That's huge even from a risk management perspective. If we don't know about near miss incidents or people who had an incident but don't need treatment right away, we aren't able to see those predictive factors to see where we might need additional training or to fix a facility. So knowing that we've gone down, almost 40 days in the past 2 years in how quickly members are notifying us that something happened is going to be huge for us in trying to prevent injuries as well as for making sure those people get that care timely. Again, talking about the statistics, it's been a 20% improvement between 2024 and 2025 and how quickly we're getting those claims over to Intercare.
By the way, feel free to ask us questions as we go, but you're, of course, at the end is fine too. Okay, the next is looking at the closing analysis. So this is first year cases. So of the claims that were reported to us that were reportable, the 265 number this year, how many of those were open at the end of the calendar year? And you can see 125 were still open, but 140 were able to be closed. So that is a 53% closing ratio on first year cases. And you can see that's a huge improvement from the prior years. The only year it isn't is that really quick turnaround of some of those COVID cases that were just open, they were indemnity, and then they were usually closed. So that, besides that, you had a really good year in terms of your first year closings. Okay, so let's talk about those lost time or more significant or catastrophic cases. So there were 176 indemnity cases reported this year. You can see that's quite a big jump from last year. The average paid on those cases are in the graph there at $17,278, and you have the total paid on those claims specifically there at the bottom. Now, if we go to the next page, it'll kind of show you what that looks like in terms of some outlier claims. So an outlier claim is where we paid more than $100,000 in the year. So these cases, there were 4 this year, 4 outlier claims, meaning more costly, more significant, some level of maybe catastrophic, but definitely costing more money in the first year. So 4 compared to 2, obviously up quite a bit. The bottom part of this graph shows you what it would look like in terms of your averages if you take out those 4 catastrophic or any year that you're looking at. So you have your average paid indicated there. At the top, that's your average paid on just the 4 cases, 152,019. And then at the bottom, what would your average paid look like compared to that prior slide if we take out the catastrophic cases? Thank you. Okay, so this is looking at first year claims and how many were denied. So you had 265 claims that came in, 33 claims were denied. That could be a partial denial or a full denial. And those that were later accepted in the same year that they were reported, so this would be calendar year 2025, by the end of December, 3 were later accepted cases that came in and initially were denied at first. So you can see the percentage has gone way down. Well, way down in our terms. In workers' comp, going from 17% to 12% is a really big improvement in terms of the number of denied cases. Okay, litigated claims. So those that had an attorney, again, we're looking at that 265 number. The number of litigated were 15. That's 6%, so up just slightly from the year before, but the number is definitely up as well. And those cases that were litigated and also denied is at 7. You can see at the very bottom is comparing it to the state averages for public self-insured first-year litigation rate. So you can see you guys are performing much better than the state. They're always a year behind because it takes several months before we get their data to know what it was for them, but they're several months behind. So next year you'll see the 2025 number. I think, do you have a comment on this one? No? Okay. So it is an improvement overall on the denied and then an increase on the number that were litigated and denied.
Okay, now we're going to get into the juicy stuff, which was a lot of the focus of the ad hoc committee that a lot of us in this room participated in. And that's going to be our big 3 presumptive injuries. So for these slides specifically, we're talking about those heart cancer and PTSD claims that come in. I'm going to put a side note on this that we're comparing 4 years of data, so 2020 to 2024 to the year 2025. It's obviously going to be a smaller data set, but we're doing that because 2025 is the first full year we had in which we put in all of those changes in regards to how us and Intercare are handling those presumptive claims. So we wanted to show you real time what's happening now that those are in place. And then we also want to go over how that's looking in the real world. Next year, when we come to present this to you, we'll have 2 years of that data. So the numbers on averages will go up as cases that are currently denied work through the process. But you'll see through the trending numbers that we're already in a really fantastic place. And I expect those numbers to stay well reduced from where we were before. So we're going to talk about the data as a whole. In 2020 to 2024, there were 87 total presumptive claims filed that were in that heart cancer or PTSD arena. Of those, 85 of them were denied before they later became accepted or remained denied. That averages out to about 22 claims being filed per year in that presumptive bucket. In 2025, we had 17 total presumptive claims filed. I do want to make a note, there is an asterisk up there about the accepted within the delay for the years prior to 2025. The 2 claims that were accepted within the delay period of the claim took place after we put the new handling standards in place. So that shows that immediately after that standard went in place, we already had a 200% improvement in the number of cases that were accepted. So it's effective, it's working as it should, and we'll talk through that more as we go through. Danielle also talked about those outlier claims. This data set does include some outliers. For these slides, that will include any claims that were accepted more than 1,000 days from the date it was reported. That's because those claims are going to be very complicated. Claims where there were multiple fire districts involved trying to work out liability, cases where there may be question of, statute of limitations or things of that nature that are more complicated medically or legally, and they aren't the standard of these claim investigations. Okay, we're first going to talk about the unrepresented claims within the presumptives. In the year 2020 to 2024, we had 41 claims filed. One of those was an outlier claim, so only one claim that took over 1,000 days to become accepted. Of the 39 claims that were denied in that period, 22 of those claims were not pursued for overturning by the member, which means that the member received the denial, the explanation for why their claim was denied, and they agreed with the determination. The 17 claims that were pursued, 15 of those were later accepted, which is an acceptance rate of 88%. So those are again going to be those claims where we don't have the information we need at the 75th day, but it later comes in and we're later able to give them that yes answer. There are two most common reasons we see for claims not being accepted at the 75th day. One of those is going to be that the member did not cooperate in providing us their medical releases, so we were simply not able to get the medical records to confirm that there was an injury meeting the presumptive threshold as set forth by the legislature. The second issue we see coming up, and that remains the biggest reason for denial in our 2025 data set, is that members are experiencing a single episode of an irregular heartbeat, but they are not diagnosed with an actual heart condition. It's the same theory of I tripped, but I didn't injure myself. You can have one instance of an irregular heartbeat without having a diagnosed cardiac condition. So we're seeing a lot of those happening, especially when we're talking about wellness physicals. You know, I myself get a couple AFibs if I have a few cups of coffee after a night of rough sleep. So it's not unusual for our members to experience that, but it may not fall into an actual injury that would place it within the workers' compensation system. In 2025, we had 10 claims that were filed unrepresented. 7 of those claims were denied. They have gone through the legal roundtable process we put in place. For those who aren't aware, now when a presumptive claims comes in, if a decision other than accepted is going to be issued by Intercare, we require that Intercare schedule a call with themselves, our workers' compensation defense counsel, and the district so that we can collectively review the evidence that has been received on the file to determine if we feel that there is going to be any evidence brought forward that would make it fall outside of workers' compensation. If not, the claim is then placed in an accepted status. So that's that legal roundtable that these claims are now going through. Those claims that were denied, 4 of the 7 fall into that cardiac category we just talked about. The member had a single episode of an irregular heartbeat, but a doctor has not diagnosed them with a cardiac condition. 2 are for skin cancer that either have location issues or latency issues. So they may be a member who's only been here a few years. We need a doctor to confirm whether, they have a work-related injury, or it's at a location where, the sun probably doesn't shine there. So we need a doctor to give us an explanation on that as well. One of them was determined to be not industrial by a medical doctor. So that claim was obviously denied based on the medical evidence. I do have an update on those statistics as of today. One of the claims that was denied within the delay period has now had the medical report come in. It's going to be placed in an accepted status tomorrow, and the date to acceptance on that is 85 days from the date it was claimed. So that qualified medical evaluation process had already taken place, but the report wasn't in yet. It only took that additional 10 days for us to be able to give that yes based on substantiated medical evidence. Okay, and now we're going to talk about the represented presumptive claim. So this is going to be that litigated bucket where a member has opted to retain legal counsel for their presumptive injury. Before we get into the numbers, I want to explain a term that we're going to talk about a little, and that's what's called a blind application. That's going to be where our first notice of a claim of a presumptive injury has been made via an attorney. So an attorney paperwork was our first notification. Blind application claims are difficult for us to navigate because they come in with no information. Intercare is not able to take a statement from the member. We don't have those signed medical releases. We don't know where they've sought medical treatment. And our avenue to get that information is deposing the member. That process takes time. Typically, we're looking at 60 days to get to that deposition. So by the time we even know where they've sought that treatment or what exactly they're claiming, our decision window is basically over. So those types of claims put us behind the ball when it comes to that investigation period. So I just want to make sure everyone had an understanding of that definition. With the litigated claims that were filed in the years prior to 2025, there were 46 claims filed that were litigated, and all 46 of them were denied. There were 3 outlier claims that were in existence during that time. So again, that over 1,000 days to acceptance. 45% of those claims were filed via blind application. So we were already behind the ball on getting to that yes on 45% of those claims. The statistic for those claims later becoming accepted is at 78% for those 4 years. But when we're talking about blind application claims, that rate does drop to 73%, which again speaks to us being behind the ball and getting that information. We need to figure out whether we have that compensable injury or not. 2 cases within this data set are worth pointing out. There were 2 claims that came in filed under a presumptive statute, but were medically determined to not fall within a presumptive statute. So they were not the condition and originally thought to be in existence. Those 2 cases were later accepted based on medical evidence that was gained through the investigation process, but they were accepted as other than presumptive cases. So that highlights the importance of us doing our due diligence and making sure we know what we're dealing with before we accept a claim, so we know what we're accepting and why we're accepting it. In 2025, we only had 7 claims that were litigated. Only 5 of those claims were denied. This year, we only had 23% of our total litigated claims come in as blind applications. We're hoping that a lot of the rationale behind the members coming to us directly is the work we've put in. We did the roadshow with Captain Manfredi to go out and discuss the process, what it really looks like, to explain what we're doing with that information to get them to a yes. And then we've also made sure that they understand we're trying to get them to that yes. So we're hoping as we continue to put that advocacy in place, as we continue to work with Wellness, Health, and Safety to have them be our liaison for these presumptive cases, that blind application rate continues to go down, so we have the opportunity to get them to a yes. And we also hope that they don't feel the need to get an attorney at any point during the claim, because we're clearly explaining what's happening and we're making sure the benefits are being delivered to them in a timely manner. Now, with these cases still being new, this statistic is pretty mind-blowing to me. We're already at a 60% rate of those litigated claims in 2025 later being accepted. So we're doing a better job partnering with our legal counsels and with InterCare to really make sure we're doing everything we can to push those cases forward. All of the cases that were denied, even within this litigated bucket, did go through that legal review process. So that applies whether you're represented or not. I know that was a lot of information on our presumptive topic. Any questions from the board?
Any questions?
Fantastic. Thank
No,
you.
thank you.
Okay, Angela said that was the fun part, but this is really the fun part for me. This is looking at the top types of cases. So you can see each year we've highlighted the top 3. The first one is looking at frequency, so the number of claims reported by body part, and you can see where a big portion of the claims are coming in and what types of body part are being included. Not really a lot of surprises here. The internal organs is from the fun incident that happened that was spread amongst several different VEER firefighters, but very minor in nature. Though it may not have felt like that. The next page is looking at the severity. So this is looking at the claims by body part, but terms of the cost. So what did the paid look like? How much did these cost? They aren't always the same. The top 3 that are in the number of cases reported, like the internal organs as an example, don't necessarily mean they're the top 3 in terms of what was paid. So here, not really, again, any surprises. Knee, low back, and shoulder is what we would expect to see in terms of both cost with, potential surgeries, et cetera, and in terms of what the frequency of what they face on a day-to-day basis. We're going to take the show on the road. Okay. Claims by nature. So again, looking at the frequency, so you can see the highlighted are the top 3. Again, we have here contagious disease. That's the same thing as those internal organs. The reason why internal organs was chosen is because there wasn't really an exact area to use that kind of made sense. So you'll see contagious disease definitely is a better one in terms of nature, but we didn't have that in terms of cause or a body part in terms of choices. These are all federal mandated types of areas that we track. So sprain, strain, of course, that's what's expected. And the other one is just an anomaly for this year. The severity is looking at those cases and the top 3 that were the most expensive. So you have mental stress, sprain, and strain. Mental stress would include any PTSD cases. So that's included as well in there. But you may have cases that include mental stress that isn't necessarily PTSD. It's just overall mental stress. So those are included in there. So that is your most costly this past year. This is the first time mental stress has hit the top three. But I will say that is something we're seeing across California. It's not specific to Northern California or to your district at all. It's just as unfortunately situations that are happening throughout the state for very difficult positions.
We also would expect to see that as we're now proactively accepting more of those cases. So that number will go up. It'll probably level off at this point as we hone in on which providers are providing the best result with the best costing for our members. And it'll level out at this point, but it's always going to be much higher than the previous 4 years because we're now proactively handling those cases.
Good point. Thank you so much. Okay, claims by cause. So this is looking at the top three by cause. So this is where we have that absorption, ingestion, inhalation, or vaccination. There's a lot that goes into that code. That code is all together, and those again are those same cases that we talked about previously. The other two, strain and lifting, that's exactly what we would expect to see for this program. So nothing anomaly there. The severity is looking at the cost. So again, the paid. So the top three in the paid are lifting and then object being lifted or handled by others, and then strain or injury. So that is where your top three are in terms of the cost. Again, nothing unusual, what we would expect to see. Payment distribution. So here's where we're going to talk again about first year cases. So this is showing you, and we tried to break out as much medical treatment as we could so you could see where the costs are going. What types of treatment are people obtaining that are costing you the most money? So overall, we talked about the 3.1 million. We talked about the fact that there was 4 outliers, but this is also showing you where that cost is going. Of course, a very big piece of it has to do with 4850 and indemnity benefits. So we have to track those in our system, even if we're paying the district back for that. So that is a big portion. That is not surprising. It doesn't look like we had any compromise and release settlements, and we talked a little bit about those last year. We'll talk about that towards the end of the presentation. But for first year cases, it's pretty unusual that we would have any type of compromise and release cases. They haven't really made it to that point most times. And then we didn't have any death benefits for this year. And you can see that across the board in terms of first year. A lot of times those get paid out over time. So this gives you that idea of where the payments and the treatment and things are going. The next slide is looking at for everything we paid in the year. So the prior slide is just first year cases reported to us in calendar year 2025, and what did we pay on just those cases. This is the full shebang of everything we paid in calendar year 2025 is going to be our focus. And you can see it is up a bit from last year. Last year was at 7.68. Thank you. I was doing so well. And now I'm like, I can't see those numbers. 9.4. So it's gone up a bit, but if you take a look in the medical for CNR future medical, that means a compromise and release where we paid it out of the future medical side of our reserves, our buckets, our budgets. And then in the middle section, compromise release PD and applicant attorney fees, that shows you that's much more than last year as well, a little bit more. So overall, between the two buckets, it is more than last year. The other big drivers are just the things we're seeing across the board in terms of medical treatment. This year in 2025, medical treatment has gone up 4% for nothing other than inflation. So same service could be exactly the same, and it's going to cost at least 4% more in 2025 than 2024. And in 2026, it's expected to do the same. That's what the industry is reporting. So keep that in mind when you're looking at those numbers as well.
Can I pause you there for just a second?
Yes.
Yeah. Any questions from the board? Any feedback? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, this is actually really the fun part. So bill review, this is where medical providers, they bill us obviously for their services. They don't bill us according to workers' comp. They bill us according to whatever their system is set up. So we actually have a medical bill reviewer that reviews every single bill. Some things can go through like an automation in a system that we use, but regardless, even if it does, we have a specific person who is reviewing every single bill. So this is where we can really make a big difference on your program and achieve great savings. So you can see the provider's build is at 5.8 compared to 5.6 last year. There's quite a few more bills. So overall, not as much in terms of severity on those bills, because it's quite a big jump to only have a little bit of a difference of what was provided to the providers. Again, sorry, that's what they billed, but ultimately what was paid is 2.4. So about 400,000 more than last year. But you had so many more bills coming in. So your gross savings, you always want to look at that, but then you want to look at the amount and you want to look at the percentage, but then you want to look at what your net savings is. That's the most important because you have to pay us for those services. So looking at your difference, looks like 2%, about 2 is about 3 last year. It's about 3 this year. There is some rounding in there. So you're going to get it rounded, but it's 2 something. So it's getting rounded to 3%. Difference. So ultimately the savings just in calendar year 2025 was 3.4 million and that net savings percentage was 59%. So it's a huge, big impact for the program, obviously. In the next couple of slides, we're going to go through a little bit less savings, but bill review is where we can really make a big difference in the savings. So next slide is utilization review. I know we've talked about this quite a bit in both the ad hoc and in the last meeting, is looking at those types of requests for authorization. That's where the provider wants to do some sort of modality and they're requesting authorization. It's called an RFA. A lot of different acronyms in our business. So if you need anything, any information, let me know. But these are requests for authorization that came in at 1,917, similar to the bills, a lot more this year than there were last year. And how many were reviewed and approved at the adjuster level. So you can see that was 81% this year, 84% last year, but a much larger number that went to the adjusters and they approved it without having to escalate it to a nurse or a medical provider. This is really huge for the program and an area I know a lot of us have worked really hard for, including Angela, Candace, and Melissa, to really try to improve our protocols and improve that percentage that gets approved at the adjuster level. It's much quicker. It's just a lot of good things there. We did have ultimately what was escalated to peer review, which means it went to a doctor. There were 185 of those. The doctor eventually, you can see the number they approved. The number they modified means maybe they asked for 24 visits of physical therapy and the peer reviewer only allowed 16 or 12 or 8. They really don't want to allow just the full amount unless there's surgery involved because they want to see that there's improvement from it. Otherwise, it's not needed. It's not appropriate. Some other route needs to be taken. So that's where you get the modification and then the denials. There were ultimately 95 denied. You can see the total fees for those services indicated, and then the more fun part, the savings at the very bottom. So a big amount of that savings has to do with the adjusters reviewing it. You can see the big difference between last year, over 100,000, and then the average savings per request for authorization. ADG is adjudication in our world. Do you want to?
Yeah. I do have a comment on the peer review process. So that has been a pain point that we've noticed in the claims process over the last year, taking a closer look. We have a lot of instances where, for whatever reason, and I'm sure doctors are not busy in today's medical system, the 2 doctors are not able to connect before the very limited window for them to complete that review is completed. With that understanding and understanding the importance of that peer review to make sure we're paying for medical treatment that is truly necessary for the member, we have also put in place that if the adjusters get notification that it's going to go from a nurse to a peer review doctor, that our team is notified first so that we can also look at the request and see if it makes sense or if it's something that our team feels should be approved right away. So the instance we see that happening in the most is with surgeries, right? medical guidelines say you need to try 12 PT, 2 injections, whatever the case may be, before you get to that arthroscopic surgery. If we have someone we know is going to be off for 6 months, we know we have, verifiable medical evidence that they have a tear, that an orthopedic surgeon says it is definitely surgical. Is that a denial we really want to happen, or is it going to be a better service to the member and the district to just get it over with to get them back to work? So we get notified before those go to the peer reviewer. If it makes it to the peer reviewer and a denial is going to be issued, we also request pre-notification of that so that we can again confirm, is this getting denied just because Dr. Jones and Dr. Gould couldn't get together to talk about the requested treatment? Or is it getting denied because they did speak and the doctor on our side truly feels it's not medically necessary? So we're able to then say, if they haven't made contact, please continue to make those contact efforts until the doctors connect, so that we still have that medical review in place and have a doctor's opinion on if it should be overturned or not. So we've really put safeguards in place to make sure that those peer review denials that are going out are quality denials and not just denials based on the doctors not being able to communicate.
All right, we have a question, Director Gould.
I'm just, go back to that other slide of all the slides we've seen. If you look at that peer review denied, that number 95 out of the 185 sent, that's a pretty staggering percentage of denied by the peer reviewer. And I'm assuming the way you described it, that's a physician.
Correct.
Tell me or help me understand what happens with the member who's now been told by a physician that their treatment is being denied. How fast do we go from denied by the PR to an ability for me to seek a second opinion from a different PR? Because I'm going to deny it all day long, and Dr. Jones is not going to. And so I'm just wondering the process, because that seems like we've almost doubled the number of PR denials from 46 last year to 95 in 2025. That concerns me, because that's an emotional impact on my member. And what's this going to mean for delay? And I love your statement that said, we now have a process where we jump in, we determine, which is going to be interesting to find out how you do that. But is it a quality denial? Well, holy crap, I hope this whole thing is quality, especially on the denial side. But the mindset that you mentioned is really important for our men and women. And that's, okay, now that I've been denied, how long is it going to be before I get fixed and I can get back to work?
Mind if I take this one?
And
Go
so
ahead.
I would just hope that while we're seeing, I think, a pretty significant number increase in denials, that there's an attitude somewhere in there that, okay, let's assume it's a quality denial, but what can we do to get a different opinion, whatever the case may be, to get this person back healthy and safe and then back to work?
Yeah, so the numbers do look staggering, but there were over double the amount of denials. So percentage wise, that increase is only a 1% increase from last year. So
See how easy that was?
we'll bring the panic down just a touch, because it's actually not as scary as it looks, because I agree, the number is terrifying.
Thank you. That makes total sense to me.
Yes,
That the-
but I do want you to have the information on what happens after that denial. So we make sure the member is notified right away verbally as well by the adjusters to let them know that denial is coming, so it's not a surprise to the member. They also immediately have the ability, the paperwork is sent out to them with the denial, the reason for denial, and paperwork for what's called the independent medical review process. That's the IMR process. That is a state-run system in which if a treatment request is denied, the member has the ability to then immediately appeal that to an independent state doctor, who then also takes a look at the request, the medical records that are available, and the reason for denial to issue that immediate second opinion on the request itself.
And I love the fact that you're hopefully our members being notified by Intercare versus the doctor's office. I
Yes.
think that's a much better way. But I wonder, as a matter of practice, that when we have a denial from the PR, and then you say there's this second step, why we ask the member to fill all that out? It's already emotional that they've been denied. They're chomping at the bit to get back to work. Why don't we just put a process in that as soon as it's denied by the PR, the Intercare automatically fill out this independent second whatever, and just make it a part of the process, so the member doesn't have to sit there and think about, Why'd they deny it and stress out about all that crap? It's really your job, I think, to shepherd them through the process. And you just say, hey, we've already put a request in for a second opinion. And the member hears, okay, you're on my side. You're my champion. We're getting to a yes. Because I think that's what we thought about, Bob, when we set this whole thing up. So I'm not telling you how to do your job. I'm thinking at it from a user.
I get you. So that's simply how the legislature set up that piece of the workers' compensation system. It is the member's right and ability to make that request. The other piece of that puzzle is sometimes you would not believe some of the requests doctors make. We've gotten stuff for a specialized pair of running shoes, 12-month gym membership. Some of those things do definitely fall outside the scope of potential medical necessity. And in those situations, we might agree with some of those denials. So it wouldn't always be appropriate for us to automatically say that, because once we provide one member with a pair of running shoes, we're off to the races and suddenly everyone's running around in, custom $200 running shoes because they bumped their toe once. So it's a great idea in theory, but in practice, it could lead to a lot of unintended consequences down the road.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to say then, okay, I get that. But can we make a phone call to the member and say, is it all right? Do you give us permission to file?
Danielle, you go right ahead.
See, you guys are going to earn your money.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you guys had me here, I don't know, like 2 hours last year standing here, but it's set up where injured employees, the doctor, they can work with the doctor to request a review from independent medical review, or the applicant attorney. The third-party administrator doesn't submit any of that on their behalf. So it's something that it needs to come from them. Could we help them fill out the paperwork? I'd have to look into that. Yeah, what sounds like you already do that.
Yeah, we help walk them through the process
Yeah.
if they have
Okay, but you
questions.
see my point.
Yes, absolutely.
Take on a little bit more of taking it off the member. We've
Exactly.
just been told, the word denial is pretty freaking rank.
Right, nobody likes
And
no,
you've been
nobody
hitting
likes
on the
to know.
job we're
Yeah,
denying. And I think the whole process that we were trying to do is figure everything out we can to where they basically turn over what they need to turn over.
yeah,
And then you all take them through that. And when the word denial comes out, it's a soft landing. We got your back. Here's this form that you can give us permission to work with you on. We legally, apparently, because of the brilliancy of the legislature, can't help you with it. And then we just move from there, because I'm just thinking about my men and women who all of a sudden just get this, a physician saying, nope, I'm denying it. And that's a pretty harsh thing to tell our men and women once they've been injured on the job. So anyway, I no pun intended, beat this work.
I think that the key here in moving forward is that we're communicating more and in more steps along the way to try to help them through the process, and trying to kind of give them that out. But there is also treatment that's requested that isn't appropriate, that we all agree unfortunately should be denied. I mean, I'd like a new mattress too, don't get me wrong, but some of these things we can't just always put to be under public funds for you guys. So
$100 pair of shoes is not that
no,
cool.
unless it's now for every member, I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
thank you. Great questions. Before you move on really quick, any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you.
Okay, pharmacy, case management. Case management is the telephonic nurse case managers. We've talked about this quite a bit in the ad hoc as well, really helping the nurses or helping the members by nurses getting involved when appropriate, even when it's just with the treating doctor, trying to get help with filling out IDR forms and a variety of different things to really give them that support. So we had 13 referrals this year, but ultimately due to those that were still open after calendar year 24 and the new referrals, we had 52 claims that we were working on in 2025 with a nurse involved. You can see the fees there, and then the average fee per case, which actually went down, and then the total savings. The savings is, let's say, by working with a nurse and the doctor and the provider, they were able to get somebody back to work quicker than what was anticipated, either through occupational disability guidelines or of what the doctor had indicated previously. So it's really a big, it is a savings, and really, more importantly, helps with that morale and that feeling of being taken care of and working with a medical professional. So it's really good for the program. Pharmacy benefit management. So this is Optum. This is the pharmacy cards that they get both in the injured worker app that we provide to them, that they all can access if they choose to. It's just an app on your phone, and their pharmacy card is on there, or they get a physical card in the mail as well, and they can use either one to get their prescriptions filled. For the program, the number of prescriptions by generic went up, so that's really good. That's where you get a big savings. And then ultimately, if you look at the total percentage of savings, it went from 12% up to 39%. And you can see on the left side, the total savings there compared to the amount billed. So we have a really great program with Optum. They're looking out for everyone's best interest, including the member, making sure they're not on medications that are counteractive or, addicting, anything that is going to put them in a situation where it's going to be even tougher to get them in back to work, or at least, as healed as much as they can for each of their injuries.
This is another area where we had some feedback over the last year that had us make some changes. We had a member who had a workplace injury. They went to fill their prescription. They headed over to their normal pharmacy, and there was a lot of confusion with their pharmacy on who to bill, who's approving, who does this, who does that. So based on that feedback, we did start including a generic copy of the pharmacy first fill card in the new injury reporting packet that we rolled out last year. That makes sure that the member, the second they're telling us they're injured, has access to the pharmacy benefits, even if the claim isn't quite open yet. The pharmacy knows who they should be pestering about the claim. We've also started including instructions specifically on those first fills in our emails that acknowledge the injury, letting them know that, hey, if you do choose to go to your personal pharmacy that you normally use, please reach out to them first. Let them know it's a work comp injury, not a personal injury. Here's the information for the work comp pharmacy benefits vendor. Please bill it here. Please get authorization from there. Since we've made that change, we have not received a single phone call about a member who hasn't been able to receive their initial pharmacy benefits. And even when we do have members who are filling new prescriptions, say for a surgery when they previously haven't been on medications, we're able to give them that heads up of, hey, maybe use CVS instead of Walgreens this time, or give Walgreens a heads up that this is what's happening. So they don't have that, oh, I showed up, 20 minutes after my surgery and you tell me I can't have my Norco. It's not really a pleasant situation when that happens. So.
Great work. Thank you. That's great.
Okay, industry developments. This is just for your fun evening reading. So on break, maybe you can dive into this. Really just wanted to give you I'll hit a couple highlights, just that in our industry, medical costs are increasing. You can see this year up 8% in 2024. Like I said, 2025 was supposed to be 4%, and 2026, they've already made a bunch of changes and things. So they're anticipating at least 4%. The average cost of a case. So WCIRB, that's the Workers' Compensation Insurance Rating Bureau. So if you were not self-insured, they kind of help set rates for those that just go through carriers and are not self-insured. And we all in the industry kind of follow those rates to at least look at and what we can expect in terms of trends and an average cost ultimately of a case. What they've indicated in the claim year 2026, and they're always projecting like a year or two ahead, and they're never completely correct. And then we go back and readjust, but they're projecting 2026 to be almost $81,000 average cost of a lost time claim. So it's jumped up pretty significantly. I would say before COVID, I believe we were at just about 70,000, 72,000, something like that. So just in those years, it's really gone up. And a big piece of that, of course, is the increases in medical. The allocated costs, these are things like defense attorneys, court reporters, subpoena records. It also does include your bill review fees, your ancillary costs that are kind of needed along with a claim. Overall, they're showing that has sharply increased between 2022 and 2024. And of course, much of it originating from law firms based in Southern California. So we do get quite a bit of that, where Southern California is representing people, representing injured employees in Northern California. They're now all over the place. And part of that has to do with our Workers' Compensation Appeals Board is like 90% all virtual now, where it used to only be in person. So that's made a big change in the availability of folks to be attending those. And then just rising inflation. So you have that with increases in Medicare et cetera, on there as well. The next slide, we want to go through a couple successes that we didn't exactly talk about. So we did settle 53 claims in calendar year 2025. So 10 of those were compromise and release, meaning they're complete. They're, the case is closed. Stipulated award, that means we are paying out whatever is owed for the permanent disability, but they're entitled to future medical treatment. I wish I could quiz you guys right now, but you probably won't answer, but they're entitled to that for life, and for their injuries specifically. So that is a big piece of the ongoing medical exposure is that they are entitled to that treatment for life. But 43 of those settled by stipulation, and then you can see the averages there. As of the end of December, we're always looking at those older future medical cases, meaning they settled by stipulation. It could be any years. As long as they're receiving treatment, we keep those open. We continue to follow them, communicate, work on the treatment. If they go through requests for authorization, all those same things are happening. But we're always looking at opportunities to resolve those cases. In fact, I think Angela will talk about one on the next slide. That's kind of one of our goals and projects for this next year. And then closures. So overall, on all closures, we closed 245 claims in calendar year 2025. And of the older claims that you had open before Intercare took over, that information is indicated there. There were 40 closed cases that were those considered older cases, even though they weren't necessarily that old, but before Intercare took over. So 40 of those were closed in 2025. And then operational enhancements. So we've done a lot of things, as Angela talked about. I was going to say, and here she is.
Here she is, stealing the thunder. So these are two things that came out of, again, the ad hoc committee that we're really excited about. And both of these have had a ton of collaboration with the Wellness, Health, and Safety Division that deserves a big round of applause from us and the partnership that they've been able to provide us in these program improvements. The first one we want to talk about is that peer support and work comp roadshow that Captain Manfredi's also spoken to you guys about before. We did finally complete that tour in December of 2025. We were able to speak to all stations and crews, obviously not every single member because trades, all of those fun things, but we did visit every station and every shift. Again, the purpose of that was for Captain Manfredi to be able to give them preventative tools where PTSD specifically is concerned and about their general wellness to hopefully prevent those injuries from happening. And my portion was to walk them through the actual nuts and bolts of workers' compensation, to dispel some of the myths that we heard from members throughout the years, and to give them information on how to go about filing those claims to get to the best chance of yes. A part of that tour was also begging and pleading with them to report those incidents to us, so we have those leading risk indicators to review. We found that was very helpful. We got a lot of great feedback. We saw a lot of members reaching out to ask about claims that they had previously closed, but were still having problems with, that were reaching out about issues they had never brought to anyone's attention. So that went a long ways in building that relationship with the line and hopefully getting them to understand that we really are here to advocate for them and to try and help them resolve those issues. So again, a huge thank you to the district and Wellness, Health, and Safety for supporting that. It was a massive undertaking and a lot of man hours, but we've really seen a lot of benefit from it. The second thing that we undertook internally last year was the rollout of that new injury reporting packet. Previously, our injury reporting consisted of the member filling out 4 separate forms. One of those is the state mandated form that still gets completed. The other one was a form that luckily for us, Intercare's system kindly generates for us when we report a claim to them online. So it was actually a duplicative form. And the other 2 were both different forms that went to different members of the Wellness, Health, and Safety Division. We were able to sit down with Wellness, Health, and Safety and evaluate what information they needed and what information we needed to both do our independent processes. And we were able to combine that all into one form. So the injured workers now only complete 2 forms instead of 4. Obviously, a big cost savings when we're talking about, printing, inter-district mail, the time that it's taking us all to process those forms, the members remembering to do them. We also, with that new form, put a packet in place that gives them a lot of tools on what to do on day 1 of their injury. Where can you go? How do you get those pharmacy benefits? What do you do in case of the injury? So that's been spectacular. And I think that's played a big part in the members getting those injury reports to us more quickly. They're also able to fill them out digitally. They're fillable PDF forms that they can sign online. So they're able to email those over to us right away, which automatically cuts out that, 24-hour time frame for logistics to get those forms around the district.
Great enhancements for the members for sure. The bottom is just looking at the total savings. So I went over the bill review, the utilization review, and the telephonic case management. Those are all Intermed products, which are sister company of Intercare, and overall savings of 4.4 million. So it was a really amazing year for total savings for you guys. And then
Fantastic. It's fantastic. Thank you.
I know I should have opened with that. Really, is probably how we should do that next time, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Let me start. Yeah. So these are our goals that we worked together with your HR department and Intercare, and we sat down and kind of go over some of the goals that we were thinking for this next year. How can we even continue what we're doing and continue to thrive, but continue to always look for areas of improvement? So I'll take a couple of these, and Angela will as well. So the caseload is looking at, really making sure we have the caseload divided amongst our adjusters appropriately. And we've been able to kind of spread that out so that the caseload is lower for the adjusters, which really helps them do the things that are needed with the claims and communication specifically. You want to go over lag time? Sure.
Lag time, we talked about that earlier and how important it is for us to get those claims over to Intercare timely. 5 days is really this industry standard for getting claims reported immediately. We're at 8% this last year, which is already a fantastic improvement, but our goal for calendar year 2026 is to have all claims reported in under 5 days. So we think that's going to be a very achievable goal given how close we got last year. The second one that we're going to talk about is also settlements. One of the goals we have that we're going to partner with Intercare on is reviewing our open hearing loss claims. Those claims cannot be closed under OSIP guidelines. They require that ongoing future medical award for the member's lifetime. So we can't just close them even if the member hasn't procured hearing aids in 5, 10, 15 years. A lot of those members are retired. They live out of state now. So we're going to look at potentially offering them a lump sum settlement to resolve those future medical benefits. That'll allow that member to completely select their own provider. That provider doesn't have to be willing to accept work comp. They don't have to go through the request for authorization process. They can pop on over to their local Costco hearing center, get their rewards dollars on their credit cards, still have their hearing aids provided by the district, but in a way that's going to be a lot more convenient for those members to access those benefits. We're also looking at aligning our settlement authorities to make sure that the right people are looking at the right claims. As you've seen in previous slides, our settlement value average is rather high. We're at, $50,000 plus. We're looking at realigning what a large settlement looks like for the district to make sure that we give Intercare the power they need to quickly resolve claims, that the board of directors are spending their time looking at only those claims that truly are high dollar value claims, and that we're using everyone's time and resources in the best way possible.
Okay, so we're always looking at, this is not to take away from the care of the member. That's the most important, getting them back to either where they were before they were injured, getting them back to work, or getting them what they need if their injury is going to be of a more permanent basis. But with all of that, we're also looking at closing claims, settling claims, and reducing your open inventory. I probably said this last year. I've said it a million times. It's not like wine. The longer a claim is open, the worse it gets. It's terrible. It's not good for them. It's not good for you. It's just continually in that workers' comp system with providers. And like Angela mentioned, a lot of times they're out of state. They want to see doctors. The doctors won't treat workers' comp for California workers' comp. It's just really becomes convoluted and complicated. So really trying to make sure that that's also in our mind, knowing that that isn't the top thing. The top thing are your members and taking care of your members and then getting them back to as close to where they were before they were injured as possible. And that's with the right treatment included. Do you want to talk about the nurse triage? Do you want me to? Okay.
The next one is a bigger conversation for all of us to have, but I've personally experienced this service in my prior life, and Intercare also offers it. It's what's called nurse triage. So we all know firefighters love nurses. This is a program where instead of filling out a claim form, the injury report form, and sending it over to the district, if the member has an injury, they would pick up the phone and dial a phone number at Intercare that connects them directly with a registered nurse. That registered nurse then asks them a preset series of questions pertaining to the injury and any additional questions we as the district would want them to ask our members. And that nurse then triages them real time. So the nurse can make several recommendations such as, I'll check back in with you in the morning and see if you need care. You need to go to an urgent care or an occupational medicine. Let's get you scheduled. Or I think this is serious. You need to go to the emergency room. So it can cut down on a lot of that uncertainty with the members of, is this a thing? Is it not a thing? They're talking to another medical professional, which is huge. It's not just, some claims person, them giving an opinion or their wife telling them what to do. Not that we do that. It's someone who knows, what's going on and can say, hey, I think the best course of action, you said you did a back squat, your knee, twinged a little. Let's see how it is in the morning and reassess. So it can be a huge savings to us. And it's also a huge benefit to the member to immediately be able to talk to a medical professional and get a medical recommendation. And in those situations, it can also get the claim reported to Intercare right away, which is again going to take that lag time out of it. It's not the member sent us a claim form Saturday at 8 p.m. We see it Monday at 8 p.m. It gets filed at 11 a.m. It's Intercare already has the claim on their desk ready to be worked first thing Monday morning. So it can offer a tremendous savings and also offers a tremendous peace of mind to the member, knowing they have immediate access to medical care the very moment they get injured.
Sorry, I have a quick question. So it's a goal for this year. Why haven't we done it yet?
Yeah, it's a product that we have discussed exploring, but we were focused on a lot of other more on fire issues that we
Immediate
felt.
stuff we needed to address.
Yeah, it needed to address. So that's why it's on the agenda for next year. We've got the program in a good place overall. We're trending in the right direction and have those fires, mostly tamped out. So now we can start focusing on more high level program
Some of
improvements.
these other opportunities. Okay,
Absolutely.
great. Thank you.
We're excited about the potential of that for sure. Customer enhancements, we want to make sure we're continuing to exceed where we can, high level communication. We've been very involved at Intercare with the board and with the ad hoc committee and with the human resources department. But it's most important that our actual folks that are doing the day-to-day work, that would be, again, Heather and her team, are taking care of the injured employees, taking care of your members and making sure that they're communicated with and understand along the way. And that goes with the human resources department too. They're doing a lot of communication on their end. So this really has been great, and it continue to want to, do the best that everybody can. And then modernization.
That's fun. On the communication and service as well, again, a big shout out to the Wellness, Health, and Safety Division. We're lucky to have Captain Manfredi so involved in this process. He also checks in on our members that are off work due to workers' compensation claims. So we've really put a lot in play for that advocacy piece, and that's going to continue to be an area of focus for us, is making sure we have the most people advocating and at the highest level we can. With the modernization itself, there are really two aspects to this. We have a goal of getting all of our existing paper workers' compensation files digitized so that we all have immediate access to that information. Obviously, a big time savings for everyone if we have that at our fingertips instead of rifling through those file cabinets. The second piece of that, we've already been working on this again with Wellness, Health, and Safety, but figuring out how we can digitize the reporting of those injuries so we don't even have to deal with a PDF form. They could go into something, like Image Trend, or what did it just change to? Don't judge me. The new system that just came into play. We're also looking at potential external software to do that, but making sure that we have the quickest access for those members getting information to us, and then the best tools available for us to be able to analyze the data that we get from our partners at Intercare to make sure we are putting those things in place to not only treat the injuries once they happen, but to work with our other divisions here and truly manage the injury risk as it happens. That's the end of our presentation, unless Danielle has anything to add. Questions
Thank
from
you.
the board?
Any questions?
Yeah, I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to present today, and also for now being your partner a little over 2 years. It's truly been our pleasure, and we appreciate all your involvement and how much you care about your members. So we really thank you for that. But absolutely,
Thank you for your
questions.
partnership.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Any questions from the board?
I'll go last.
Okay. Any questions? You get to go, Director Weber.
tremendously. 3 years ago, we were upside down, and I've got to correct you. You're not a partner, you're a teammate. We value you so very, very much. With just a little nudge as far as from the board giving you direction that we insisted on taking care of our membership a hell of a lot better than we had in the past. Again, you took a nugget of information and it just gone crazy, crazy, crazy with it. Dollar savings are fantastic, but the percentage that you're showing and the folks that are getting the treatment they need, when they need it, quicker than they have ever gotten it before. Again, you're now anointed my new rock star team. And I say team. I thank you so very, very much for listening to an old man and some ideas, and you guys just ran like wildfire with it. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we definitely both appreciate that and appreciate all your collaboration in those meetings as well. It's been a pleasure working with you, Director Weber.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much for taking the time
Thank
today
you.
and for, like you said, partnership and being a good team, and then just your professionalism. A lot of information, a lot of great work. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay. Get your candy out now. It's time for the rest.
And do take that on the road.
That's right.
That was a great presentation.
Yes, nicely done. All right, we will move to action items. The first one is the purchase approval for a squad unit. And we have our fleet manager, Purcell. Welcome.
Far less cerebral and brief.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. Once again, I'm here for purchase approval authorization, this time for a third squad. This is the last squad that's been authorized in this year's 3-year plan for the CIP. We will again be utilizing the HGAC Purchasing Cooperative. The rig will mirror the last two. These are in anticipation of squad growth within the district. So it'll give us a reserve and the ability to, like when Squad 41 goes online, we'll be able to manage that a little bit better. Estimated lead time is about 18 months, placing its arrival sometime in Q3 2027, and the staff recommends that the board approve the purchase for the squad unit from Brown Northwest.
Mr.
Right.
Chair, I make a motion that we adopt.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any questions? All right, roll call, please.
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Gould,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Stark,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Weber,
Aye.
President Costa.
Aye,
Thank you. Motion passes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next action item, resolution memorandum of agreement with land transfer. And we have Erin Castleberry. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Board, Chief Mitchell, colleagues. I will keep it brief tonight, but I want to make sure you have the information you need to make an informed decision. This is regarding executing a memorandum of agreement with the City of Rancho Cordova, our great partners on our Station 61 project. So as you know, many, many years ago, nearly 20 years ago, we acquired some sites behind Station 61, knowing that we would need to expand the station in the future. A couple years after that, the city acquired the 2 lots that are east and west of our current station location. And as Jeff reminded me, this has been a topic of discussion with the City of Rancho Cordova probably since then. When will Station 61 be redone? When can we do it? Until now, we have not had the financial ability to do that. And in 2021, some planning efforts on revitalizing the Folsom Boulevard corridor by the City of Rancho Cordova started. They started a big revitalization effort in the city. And part of that discussion was how Station 61 fit into that plan. And so there was some prior work done with the city on how those sites, we have a total of 7 lots. The city has 2 lots, how the site might be a little better reconfigured to maximize the developable land for the city and their revitalization efforts, and how we could get a site that would meet our operational needs and also fit in with the, revitalized community there in that urban environment. So at that time, a few years back, the city had retained a design firm to kind of imagine what that might look like so that they could sort of just conceptually start making some plans for the area. So they did do that, and we kind of agreed to that configuration. It met our sizing requirements. It was mid-block still. It sort of straddles our current site and pushes us a little further east, but overall meets our site requirements and was also going to be beneficial for the city. But it was all agreed to in theory. Nothing really was moving forward at that point. With the passage of Measure O, obviously, we're moving forward on the Station 61 project. And we did reach out to the city at early on with that to start figuring out exactly what would need to happen to accomplish this reconfiguration of sites, and who would do what, who would pay for what, how that would all work out. So once we figured that out, we kind of put together some deal points and decided that memorializing this in a document with the support of you all, with the support of the Rancho Cordova City Council, so that everyone is in agreement on kind of how we will go about this. It will require future actions. Obviously, we'll have surplus land actions that we'll have to bring back to you. Real estate, land transfer actions that we'll have to bring back to you. This is just for the MOA to sort of get that process started. It's going to include doing some land use actions on the city side, general plan amendment, specific plan amendment, tentative lot map to make 2 resultant parcels instead of 9 total parcels. We will have 1 parcel, the city will have 1 parcel for their future use. So with all that said, we are mostly taking on the administrative burden. You were provided a copy of the the MOA in the board packet. The costs have been split proportionately based on what the intended future parcelization is there, so that it's fairly allocated. And we are very excited. The city's excited. They'll be bringing it to their council on Monday, and I'll be attending that meeting on our behalf there. So we're really excited. They've been great partners in this, and they're also very excited to get this process going. So I would ask that you approve the execution of this MOA, and I'll take any questions you have.
All right. Thank you for all your hard work on this.
Mr.
Any
Chair,
questions? Yes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution.
And I'll need to second it, please.
We have a first and a second. Any questions?
No.
All right. Roll call, please.
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Gould,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Stark,
Aye.
Director Clark, Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Weber,
Aye.
President Costa.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Our next item, mid-year budget. So fiscal year 25-26 mid-year budget. And we have our Chief Financial Officer, David O'Toole. evening.
Good evening, President Costa, board members, Chief Mitchell, colleagues, members of the public, Dave O'Toole, Chief Financial Officer. Here we go. Tonight I will be presenting the 25-26 mid-year budget. And the main point of comparison for the mid-year budget is the most recent budget, which is the final budget. So I'll be talking about that as we go, that reference. First, let's take a look at the agenda. Pretty familiar there. I'll do a mid-year budget overview. And then we'll cover the general fund revenues and then expenditures, a little bit on capital outlay changes relative to final, and a 5-year forecast and one-time revenue risks. The 5-year forecast we don't normally do at mid-year, but just kind of given where we are at this point in the process, I included that in the presentation. And we'll have questions and comments, and of course, adoption of the resolution as well. So jumping right in, this the gray box at the top is all funds. The blue box at the bottom pertains to general fund, where we'll be spending most of our time talking. But I do want to spend a little time on the gray box at the top there. It includes the revenues, expenditures, transfers, and changes in fund balance on the left column. And then the final budget reference, and then the mid-year column, and then the difference between the two. As I said, we'll be comparing final and mid-year. So real quick on the all funds, revenues 360.8, expenditures of 464.9, We have other financing sources, mostly Measure O money coming in, transferred in that sort of fill the difference between those revenues and expenditures of 161 million. And so the change in fund balance is 57 million. So we're increasing the fund balance by about 57 million, which was a difference, if you look to the right of that 57 million, difference of 2 million. That's how much we added to all funds between final and mid-year. Sorry, it went the other way. That's how much we reduced all funds between final and mid-year by 2 million. Okay, general fund, the box below, just focusing on the mid-year column to get familiar with the numbers. Revenues, 341.9, expenditures, 344.9. And the transfers out to other funds was reduced to 1.8 million, a difference of 2.2. It was reduced by 2.2 million. So altogether, there's really not a lot of change in the there's not a lot of change in the general fund budget. The change in fund balance, $68,308, very, very small. And that's kind of a theme of this presentation too, is that our expenditures and our revenues have changed very little relative to what we had in final. And then the box at the bottom there, just as in the final budget column there, we had when we presented the final budget, the projected year-end reserve, June 30th, 2026, was going to be 36.1 million, about 10.5%. With the end of the fiscal prior year, end of the fiscal year reconciliation, what our auditor does, and when he presented the audit to you back in January, they identified about 5.4 million in additional both revenues that had come in after that were coming after the end of the fiscal year, but were attributable back based on accounting reasons, and also expenditures that just didn't happen as expected in 24-25. So that added about, again, 5.4 million to our budget, and the reserve went up to 12%. So drilling down into general fund, the revenue side, again, really small changes we're going to see. So the projected general fund revenue, again, of 341.9, that's just a 0.3% increase from the prior year, but the final budget adopted in September. So property taxes were for 224.9 million, which is just a $39,000 increase, very, very small. Charges and services, 109.2. Again, just a 0.6% increase. Within that, is included 49.3 million in EMS revenues. So EMS revenues were down by 1.2 million. PPGMT went the other way, up by about 1.6 million projected by the end of the year. There's a bolded note there, just because it's an important factor to keep in mind that's not included in this mid-year forecast, is the PPGMT rate increase that the State Department of Healthcare Services asked of the Federal Centers of Medicaid Service on all California, all of the local agencies participating in the program, did not come through yet. Last year, it came through on January 13th. We just still haven't heard. Expect it soon, but we haven't gotten the word yet. So that has not included. And that's about, as shown there on the slide, if it comes through as proposed, it would add about 6 million to our budget annually. So big outstanding factor that is not included in this presentation. And we'll let you know when we hear. Voluntary rate range program, small increase of 500,000. CRD added about 1 million for mostly in the plan check fees. So there's some big revenue numbers there. Switching over to the expenditure side, 344.9 million in expenditures, about a 0.9% increase. So the whole expenditure budget only went up less than 1%. The labor budget is at 275.5 million, went up by about 2 million or 0.7% relative to final. It includes, as it included at final, those positions that are listed there, a firefighter, shop assistant, et cetera. Labor costs as a share of general fund revenues were 80.2. At final, they were 80, so just a small change there. Service and supplies, 64.5 million, but a 1.9% increase relative to the prior budget, final budget. So drilling down into the labor budget, remember there's sort of two main categories of the labor budget: the compensation budget, which includes wages, incentives, out of class pay, sick leave, buybacks, that kind of thing, all falls on compensation. And under benefits, that's your things like your PERS, your STIRS, payments for medical. Those are sort of the big pieces that would fall under benefits. So starting with total compensation is shown there. Wages are down, are by about have that number there, 2 million, 3 million, about 3.3 percent less than we had in final. That's mostly because we budget our positions as full at final, and then we recognize the difference at mid-year. And there were a number of vacancies that we can recognize those savings now. Going in sort of the other direction financially, constant staffing is up quite a bit, 6.1 million, but 25% higher than we had it at final. Incentive pays correspond with the lower salaries, so we saved about 700,000 on incentive pays too. And the employee wellness incentive is still there. It's a little bit less than we had budgeted by about 6%. On the benefits side, employee medical costs went down a little bit, 3.8%, 800,000. But we also had an increase in workers' compensation costs, about 1.5 million. And that's mainly because that about $1 million of that is for anticipated payouts this year. So things that we did not build in, didn't know about when we built the budget back in final. Service and supplies, taking just a moment to look at some of the bigger changes there. Building services costs went up 140,000 at prelim. We had utilities go up, electricity, natural gas. The dispatch services, they had a new contract and negotiated that required a greater contribution from the Metro Fire, 324,000. The district, as I was sort of alluding to earlier, the district pays DHCS to draw down PPGMT money. The amount that we contributed was adjusted between final and mid-year, so paying another 907,000. Capital outlay summary. So this is just some quick highlight slide of what's in the final budget. And some of this was here what's in the the mid-year budget. Some of this was included in the final budget. Noted here, Station 60, the major capital outlay projects funded using Measure O include Station 67 build out, 64 million. We have 25 ambulance replacements, 3 ladder trucks replacements, 15 Type 1 engines, 8 Type 3 engines, and 2 dozer replacements, all still in the prelim and projects moving along. And we anticipate to be purchased this year if they haven't already been. Other capital outlay projects that were not Measure O, I'd just like to mention that too. From the Development Impact Fees Fund, grant line acquisition of 2.4 million. Fire Station 67 build out added 9 million there, which you notice also has a Measure O component above. Zinfandel Training Center has 2.5 million out of the Development Impact Fees Fund, and the Special Projects Fund also contributing to the Zinfandel Training Center. We anticipate spending 10.6 million this fiscal year. Okay, so the forecast, just before I show you the forecast, I want to mention some assumptions that are included in the forecast. Let's see. Yeah, we use the county's latest property tax reports, incorporating that latest county data, which our consultant uses to come up with the property tax portion of the forecast. It also incorporates our wage costs adjusted annually to reflect what we call natural growth, which would be step increases, incentives, overtime, medical costs that go up. So it's just like we left alone, the labor costs will rise about 2% a year. No compensation or staffing increases were assumed. It didn't plug in any percentage changes for wages or incentives or anything like that. Most current PPGMT revenues were used with approximately 2% annual growth. Like I mentioned earlier, that PPGMT piece, that is not included in this, however. Pension costs are increased at the 5-year CalPERS rates. We just use the number that CalPERS gives us. And here it is. Here's the forecast for this year plus 4 years. Let's see. You can see the amount of general fund reserves. The blue column declines over 4 years with a slight uptick in the 5th. At the same time, district expenditures are growing slightly faster. So the reserve ratio, which is shown as the green line, is gradually declining. Reserves are forecasted to be 10.8% in 2026-27 and getting down to 8.6% in 28-29, where it actually stays at that level in 29-30. Interestingly, and again, this is a 5-year forecast, so the numbers will not be precise. The 29-30 is the first year when reserve borrowing would not be required under the assumptions used in this projection. For reference, that red line at the bar at the top there, that's the 15%. You can kind of get a sense of distance, if you will, from that red line. And, oh, yep. Go back.
Question. Yes, please. Why is that red line flat?
Well, it's technically if you're for ease of reference, but yeah, as you're technically if your amount of expenditures are going up and revenues are going up, it should rise some, but it's it's a cheap reference, if you will. Mhm.
Sorry, Dave, we have one more question. Oh, Director Jones. Go ahead. Okay.
So, there we go. So your major takeaways are again, really small changes relative to final. The revenue's increasing by about 0.3%, expenditures by 0.9. There's a general fund reserve transfer that we had in the final, still there, about the same amount, 5 million, just $68,000 difference. And in reserve balance is 41.5 million. The general fund reserve did increase for this fiscal year. The general fund reserve increased to 12%. Based on the prior year savings identified in the annual audit. The 5-year forecast shows modest reserve borrowing will continue through 28-29, second to last year in that 5-year presentation, subject to, the usual factors like property tax trends and labor costs and that kind of thing. And Measure O will continue to provide substantial relief to capital projects backlog, 75 million committed in 25-26. So my recommendation is to adopt the resolutions in your package. Which incidentally includes a resolution on the pad, which is a kind of a first time we've done that. And we'll be doing that for mid-year, and we'll probably have to separate that out. We understand we have to separate that out at prelim. For this time, we just had it as a specific resolution instead of being tucked in the budget. The budget materials.
Yeah. Thank you. Director Jones, any other question?
Thank you, Director Costa. Mr. O'Toole, I have a basic question about one of the earlier slides said labor costs were 80.2% of the budget. Does that total budget number include the 75 million of Measure O funds?
No, it's just general fund. It's a great question. It's just general fund revenues. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Dave. So we have a few resolutions. And Marty, just to confirm each, we have to do separate. Okay, thank you. All right, if there aren't any more questions, we'll start with the first.
Mr. Chair, I'll move Resolution 2526, mid-year budget for General Operating Fund 212A.
First, do we have a second? Director Clark, second. All right, roll call.
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Gould,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Stark,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Weber,
Aye.
President Costa.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll move Resolution 2025-26, mid-year budget for the Capital Facilities Fund 212D.
Thank you, Director. We have a first and a second. Thank you. Roll call.
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Gould,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Stark,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Weber,
Aye.
President Costa.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, I'll move Resolution 2526, mid-year budget for the Pension Obligation Fund 212E.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a first and a second.
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Gould, Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Stark,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Weber,
Aye.
President Costa.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll move Resolution 2025-26, mid-year budget for the Grants Fund 212G.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and second.
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Gould,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Stark,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Weber,
Aye.
President Costa.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll move Resolution 2025-26, mid-year budget for the Development Impact Fees Fund 212I.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and second.
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Gould,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Stark,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Weber,
Aye.
President Costa.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll move Resolution 2025-26, mid-year budget for the Leased Properties Fund 212L.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a first and a second.
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Gould,
Aye.
Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Stark,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Weber,
Aye.
and President Costa.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll move Resolution 25-26, mid-year budget for the Measure O Building Fund 212O.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and second.
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Gould, Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Stark,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
and Director Weber,
Aye.
President Costa.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, I'll move 2025-26 mid-year budget for Special Projects Fund 212S.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and a second.
Okay, Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Gould, Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Stark,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Weber,
Aye.
President Costa.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
One more.
One more. Finally, Mr. Chair, I'll move Resolution 2025-26 position authorization document.
I will second it.
All right, we have a first and second.
Great. Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Gould, Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Stark,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Weber,
Aye.
and President Costa.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Dave, thank you. Great work.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.
It's great work.
All right,
Great.
good teamwork. All right, we'll go now to reports, and for the president's report, I'll just say I had a great opportunity to connect with Local 522 President Trevor Jameson, talking about opportunities and working together and finding ways to work better together. So we had a great conversation. He was here earlier during the executive committee and provided some feedback there as well. So just wanted to report out, had a chance to meet with him, and everything is looking pretty good there. With that, our Chief's report, Deputy Chief Mitchell.
Thank you, President Costa. Good evening, directors, colleagues, members of the public. Deputy Chief Mitchell on behalf of Fire Chief House. I'd like to take this opportunity real quickly to provide some positive feedback we recently received by email from one of the participants in our Metro Fire Citizens Academy that really reflects our program's intent and how well it's going. The participant expressed appreciation for our personnel, namely Melissa Maddox, who took some time to share insight about careers in the fire service and provided guidance to their son, who is interested in serving our community. They also noted that hearing directly from our employees gave them a deeper appreciation for the department's culture, professionalism, and sense of community. And again, this type of feedback really highlights the value of our Citizens Academy and strengthening community understanding of our work and supporting awareness of fire service career pathways, which is consistent with the board's direction within our strategic plan with regards to community engagement and recruitment. I'd also want to thank the board members who've taken some time out of their busy schedules to attend. Thanks to those who've attended so far, and also the employees who help makes this program a meaningful experience for our participants. There's a lot of work that goes in and people put a lot of hours in. So thank you to all of our folks helping put that on. And that concludes my report for the evening, unless there's any questions.
All right, thank you, Chief. Any questions? All right, no questions. Thank you, Chief Mitchell. All right, so we know there are no reports from operations, administrative, or support emergency medical services. Deputy Chief Mitchell, if I may, I think it would be beneficial if we got a report back at a later date on the reorg. I think it's been 6 months now.
About 6, yeah.
Okay, I think an opportunity just, how's it going? We identified some gaps, we address those gaps.
Great.
Anything like that. So I don't know if the board has any feedback there, but I think it might be a good opportunity just to come back and.
We
give us an
will
update.
have the 3 deputies at the next meeting, bring that forward and do that as our report.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And then we don't have a report from firefighters local 522. I think it was mentioned earlier, they were in DC for a conference. All right, so that brings us to committee and delegate reports. So bear with me as I give a report out on executive committee. So the executive committee had quite a few items today. We received an update on the classification and compensation study. I know it's been a board focus and direction. So staff came back and talked about we're in the process of finalizing the contract. Once finalized, we will execute. There are 2 phases. The first phase is about 4 months. The second phase about 6 months, so 10 months total. There is some opportunity for some overlap there, which may bring us to about 8 months or so. The key here is the first 5 weeks is going to be focused on the captain rank and the EMT medic rank to align with negotiations. So a lot of work is happening there. I want to thank staff for leaning in and keeping us apprised of that. So that was one item. The second item, we got to report back on the strategic plan. So Jeff Fry has been leaning in with our consultant. That work is complete. They've provided a great outline for us to execute on. However, it's an outline. So staff had come forward with kind of next steps. One of those is utilizing some current resources we have internally with a consultant to help us get it to the next part. So staff will be taking that forward and bringing us updates on the strategic plan. And then that leads into the next piece, which is board goals. So part of the strategic plan and part of what the executive committee has been talking about are areas of opportunity. And as we identified, there's some opportunity there on the communication side. The staff has been spending a lot of time on focusing on how do we strengthen and expand the communication piece. So there are 4 projects that were identified. The first was board and executive staff communication. Second is labor and management communication. The third is district to member communication. And then the fourth is the external communication component. So we heard back from staff this month kind of where those are. And what they did was they identified a problem statement and some solutions to that. And we provided some feedback on next steps. And I'll say a lot of great work done by the team. There's a lot to do, but I think they've succinct where they see the problem and some great solutions to address those problems. Part of that then is we talked about, because of resource constraints, what are the priorities of the board? And so we provided some feedback on that. So the first 2 we're going to focus on is the board and executive staff communication. So we're going to make sure this board is fully aware of what's going on and you have a way to communicate with staff and vice versa. And then the second to that is the labor management component. And I know that's been a big focus of this board. 522 is here today. So President Jameson did provide some feedback on that. They did communicate and commit to a better process to make sure we're aligned on a monthly basis. That's what I heard. So they'll be meeting monthly. They've identified some opportunities to improve that process. I think we have some feedback to them as well, which is great. And then, they really want to be a partner. They really want to lean in and make sure we're working with them as we communicate externally and engage externally. So a lot of great conversations. I'll say staff has done an amazing job leaning in to the board priorities and making sure we're developing good processes and then really getting the board's feedback. Any questions before I move to the last item? All right. And then the last item was we had a budget presentation, preliminary budget presentation. And part of that was just trying to figure out what's the board's component. So what's the process? And then what's the board's budget? And are there opportunities for the board to lean in on that budget? And so we gave directions to staff to take the budget portion for the board and then get your feedback. What would you like to see? Where would you like to lean in? Are there educational classes or opportunities? Let's capture that. How do we budget for opportunities like cap to cap? Is there a way we can budget opportunities and lean in on some consulting work, whatever it might be? We decided to pull that piece out and we asked staff to kind of lean in there. They'll follow up with each board member to get your feedback. And as we move forward, this will be the board's budget. So we will budget accordingly and we'll allocate accordingly. So that was a lot. Any feedback or any questions? All right. Thank you. And thank you, staff, for all that you're doing and leaning in. All right. So with that, we'll move on to the next report. And I think you have a comms report? No comms. Sorry. All right. Then we'll move on to Finance and Audit Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next meeting for the Finance and Audit Committee is May 28th, 5:30 in these chambers, and reconfirming that we will be skipping the month of April. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Policy Committee, Director Sailors.
Our policy committee for tonight was canceled, so our next meeting will be April 9th at 5:30 in these chambers.
Great. Very good. Thank you. All right, we'll go to board members' questions and comments. Director Jones.
No comment tonight. Thank you. Well done, Mr. Chair.
Oh, thank
for
you.
The executive committee.
Oh,
Well
thank you.
done.
Thank you. All right, Director Clark.
No comment, Mr. Chair.
All right, Director Stark.
Yes, I'd like to thank Firehouse 101 and the training division. I was able to participate with them in a live fire burn training that all the department is going through. It was a great training. I think it's going to be very beneficial to the department. I've heard it's been several years since we've had an opportunity to do that, and that is our primary job with medical. I think it's very important. It was a great drill and it got a little hot in there, and it was fun to be back in the fire.
All right. Thank you, Director. Director Sailors. Yes, Director Sailors.
We were over here kibitzing. I have no comments tonight. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. Director Gould.
I just go like to go on the record to mention that what kind of person looks forward to going into a fire?
Yeah.
No comment. Thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
Chair.
Thank you. Director Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just have a couple of quick things. I did take the opportunity to come down and see the Citizens Academy yesterday, and just want to make sure publicly acknowledge Battalion Chief Barthel. He's doing an excellent job with the agendas and getting people together. The presentations are great. Last night we had training, wellness and training. We had training, we had health and wellness, and the bulldozer. And it was initially supposed to be Captain Peck for training, but I did not get the name, so I apologize to those individuals. But they did a great job bouncing around the questions that were being fired on training from the citizens, and all the answers are great. Everyone in the room from Metro was jumping up and helping out and answering questions. And it was just great to see that. BC Gonzalez did a great job with the health and wellness, and Engineer Alexander on the dozer. It was good to talk to him down there and see dozer 1 before it leaves. So, and lastly, Jeff, I know it's probably also not your job, but you took on that strategic plan, and thanks for doing what you do. You do an awful lot of work, and we don't say thank you enough. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Director Weber.
As with last exec committee, I've used up all my words. So other than that, I don't have any comments. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And for myself, I just want to take the time to thank the men and women of this organization, especially those of you who take my calls and walk me through all my questions. I really appreciate it. You guys are doing great work, and I know sometimes it feels like a lot. I know the board sees it, and every opportunity I can, and I know the board would like to highlight that. So thank you for all you do. And with that, we'll go ahead and close session. Okay, we'll call this meeting back to order. We'll have closed session report out. Council.
Thank you, Director Costa. The board met in closed session pursuant to the closed session agenda. On item number 1, conference with labor negotiator, the board met with its designated negotiator for the employee organization negotiations that are listed in the agenda. No reportable action was taken. On item number 2, the board met to consider the issues related to the matter of workers' compensation settlement authority for Eric Kellenberger. The board voted unanimously to approve that settlement. On item number 3, the board met with legal counsel for anticipated litigation as a result of a government code 910 claim for damages being filed with the district by David Asher. The board voted unanimously to reject that claim and to refer the matter to its liability pool. Next, on item number 4, the board met with its legal counsel on a related government code 910 claim for damages. The board voted unanimously to reject that claim and to refer the matter to its liability insurance pool. Finally, the board met on item number 5, significant exposure to litigation under the government code. No reportable action was taken. Thank you.
Thank you, council. And with that, our next meeting is March 26th. Meeting adjourned.